You're listening to the voice note you didn't know you needed by Denise Cardenas.
I was always the type of kid who always questioned everything. I always questioned, why do we do things this way? Or why do we have to think this way or do certain things this certain way? I've always questioned everything. And I would always get in trouble for it in a way because it felt like I was being stubborn or, I just didn't want to do it the right way. And I always would get in trouble for thinking this way and questioning things. And I realized at a very young age is that thinking differently, doing things differently, and questioning things would get me in trouble. So I felt like I just conformed. I just went with the flow, just did things a certain way, the right way. And I felt like I carried that even into my adult life and into my business for a very long time. And when I started my online business, maybe 7, 8 years ago, I went into the online world. I connected with a lot of people in the industry. I followed them to the T. I did everything that I could right, just the way they taught me. I hustled. I, would work crazy hours even after working in my corporate job and making sure it all worked out, making sure that I did things the right way, even after quitting my corporate job and just going full force and, trying to make it happen. It all came crashing down. I just didn't know what was wrong. And I felt like a complete failure, even after all these years of building my skills and all this stuff. I felt like something was wrong with me because I couldn't make it happen. I couldn't create results like everyone else online was doing it. And I just felt like a failure. And then the spiritual world came into my awareness. Had no idea about healing and all these different modalities and money blocks, ancestor blocks, and all this stuff that I started to learn, manifesting, and I felt like, oh my God, this is a magical solution that I need to learn. This is why I struggled for so many years. And I went, learning so much for the last 6 years. I was healing consistently, trying to create the life that I wanted to have. So I went into the spiritual world as my solution, as this is a reason why I can create the income that I want to create for myself. And it helped until it didn't. I healed a lot. I started to increase my income. I started to sell my own services, something that I couldn't ever do before. And I was able to combine the stuff that I learned from the business world as I was healing. And I was like, this is it. I finally figured it out. And I think that was, first of all, the wrong way to approach healing is feeling you have to fix yourself. And I kept on feeling that, if I don't meditate or do these certain routines, I'm not going to be able to call in money to myself. This is why I'm blocking myself. So it became very obsessive for me. And I was doing it just to do it because I was scared that it would all go away. That was such a toxic way for me to take healing. And everything just going sideways. Everything that I worked so hard for just kind of like I was knocked out of like balance, and income stopped, clients went away. Things just started not working out for me. And I was like, after 6 years, this happens. And I'm like, the thing that I fear the most happened. And I kept on thinking, I did all this healing. I paid so much money for all this stuff, and it's still not working out. What is wrong with me? And I just had one moment of realizing, I think that is the problem. I'm constantly thinking I had to heal something. I had to fix myself. Something was wrong with me. And I realized that was the biggest thing, that instead of asking myself, what do I truly want? I kept on looking outside of myself for support, for healing, for business advice and all this stuff, and trying to build something based on what everyone around me was telling me versus asking myself if that's really what I wanted. I knew that was the red flag already there, is that I needed to start trusting myself and I needed to start listening to what I actually wanted to do. And it took a while, right? Because it was very hard. Like, just like how I committed to, learning all my business skills, I really committed to the spiritual world and learn all these modalities and things that can help me. And in a way, they were affecting me at the same time because it became something that I felt like I needed to do. It became an obsession and a little bit toxic if I think about it, because I felt like if I didn't do it, things were just go wrong. And I think I needed to crash in a way to realize that, yes, I was doing all this, but it still didn't work out because I didn't trust myself. I wasn't building something that was meant for me, that felt right for me. And it was really hard to admit. It was really hard to realize that I was building something that everyone else around me had an opinion in, and I had no opinion at it at all and what I was building. That's when I realized the missing piece, that billing that I had that was missing. Even though things were working out for me, there was something that was missing, and that was my trust in myself, no matter what. Knowing that I can do this, and trusting myself and listening to myself was the missing piece. And once I started to do that by step, making decisions without asking anyone else's advice and just doing it and seeing where it went, and little by little, I was able to start building back my business, was able to start, connecting with clients that I actually enjoy working with. I made no exceptions to work with just anyone. I actually had boundaries with people. And this is why I do what I do. Before I build anything for my clients, any strategy, any content plan, any messaging, I start with understanding how they operate because I know what it costs when you build something that it doesn't fit you. And I know what's possible when you finally build something that does. I spent a long time thinking something was wrong with me because I never fully felt like I fit in both worlds. Now I realize that was never the problem. I was never the problem. That was always the point.